right. All right. Hello, everyone, again, and welcome. We're so excited to have you here joining us today for another Winter Career Quest session. Thank you to Don for joining us for a session titled From Value to Vision, Leadership in Today's Market. Again, my name is Hank. I'm an Employee Engagement Manager on our Career and Professional Development team. And as I mentioned before, there will be a copy of this session going out to you via email after the session, along with a brief feedback survey. We value your feedback and your opinion. This helps us continually to bring you meaningful sessions and help support your career journey. Be sure to check out any upcoming Career Quest sessions we have for the rest of the month via our CPD webpage, and feel free to check out past sessions on our Career and Professional Development YouTube channel. Today, we are excited to have Don Borden, CEO of Four Winds Technology in Sarasota, Florida, to share some insights on leadership and how he builds a winning company culture. So with that, I am going to begin and thank Don for joining us today. And thanks
Hank,
for working with us today through all the difficulties.
No problem. Luckily, I have a bunch of techies here, so we're good.
All right. I reached out to you back in November. I seen an uptick in applicants and applications coming in from our students at WGU to Four Winds Technology. And me being based here in Florida, I had to figure out who's Four Winds Technology. I found Don, and I automatically reached out just to kind of learn a little bit more about what is he doing down in Florida that is attracting so many WGU applicants, and how can we support in our career development office here. So with that, Don, can you just share a little bit about your career journey, and then what sparks have you made to lead you into the tech sector as a CEO?
Yeah. So thank you Hank for letting me do this. This is one of my passions, is getting involved with leadership and these types of seminars, webinars. These are all good. My background, I'm originally from the Pennsylvania area, from outside of Philly, and I went to Penn State for engineering, civil or environmental engineering at the time, and then I went to University of Pennsylvania for grad school and got my MBA. So that was kind of my start. I was always strong in math and sciences. I was really good at numbers, not good at the bio side of it and memorization, so I never got that, but I was always good with the numbers. And then when I got out of school, I started in the tech spaces from an engineering standpoint and working in engineering. And then from a business development, I got in from engineering more into business development side of companies. And then I worked my way up to CEO of these businesses from a marketing sales side, more so than the engineering technical side. I've always worked in the technical space, but I was more geared towards the business strategy side of it than I was the pure technical side of it.
Okay, great. And me being a Pennsylvania native as well, definitely there's a connection there. And we love Florida, right?
Exactly. I'm glad to be here. It's always nice to visit home, but I think I'm definitely a Floridian at this point.
All right, great. So with many of our students today that may be eyeing a leadership role or even the corner office as a CEO, what would you tell them a typical day would look like on a Wednesday afternoon for a CEO in your position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think and again, this is different than, this is more of an entrepreneurial role too. Like prior to starting this company, I ran business units for Fortune 500 companies. Little different model. You still have a lot of the same responsibility, but when you're an entrepreneur, you own everything. There's nothing that's below or beneath you, or nothing that you have to be able to solve everything. Doesn't mean you personally have to do it, but if there's a problem, you gotta figure it out. So there's nobody else to really help besides coming up with the ideas and solve the problems. That's what we get paid for, really. At the end of the day, is solving problems and improving things. So, uh, on a normal day, it's I'm always focused on our processes. We're very process oriented as a company. We have our standard operating procedures on how to do things, and our KPIs, key performance indicators. So really, the KPIs and the SOPs drive our daily things that we do. And then when things get outside of those, that's when we have to maybe get a little bit more creative or figure out how to solve something that we've never seen before. So, and it happens, especially in the technology space. We're always seeing something new.
All right. So, with working, you mentioned working with people and help driving different roles. Now, being in being in a position where you're an entrepreneur or you're in that leadership role, how do you keep how do you keep employees motivated? How do you build like that winning employee culture to be a successful organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, it's really important. I mean, we're the people really is our differentiator. So we have to hire the right people. Then we have to train the people and understand the technology and our culture. And then it's really empowering them. So really the type of person that we look for, I think, is pretty unique. We're looking for people that really want to make a difference and really are driven to learn, right? And because if we have the right type of people, then we can train and develop them and get them to be better and stronger in the company. A lot of the people that we bring into, for example, in the career field of data analytics and robotics right now, we're hiring a lot of people in that space or with that degree, and that we're putting them in different departments in the company. So it's not necessarily some are in marketing, some are in project management, but it's taking that base skill set and developing it, right? So really, it's for me, it's the type of person, and if it's the right type of person that fits our culture and we can help them develop their skills.
And I love that it's not just you're talking about a culture, it's just the vibe, but it's built. So it's not something that you're relying on already established, but you're building that to um, build a great organization. And we've seen other companies that may have talked about building a winning culture, but after having conversations with you, I understand that your culture is built into your organization. How does your organization ensure that we have your core values are being met, that are not just sayings or posters on the wall, but actually drive those daily decisions that need to be made?
Yeah, yeah, that's a difficult one. And we do it through I call it operational excellence program. I'm also a Six Sigma black belt. I don't know if people are familiar. You can look it up and Google it. I can answer it later. But the OpEx approach and our Six Sigma is all, to me, all interwoven into the company. In that every morning we have a morning huddle at 8:30 a.m. We talk about what we're going to do that day. We go to all of our KPI boards, and the leader of that KPI board talks about the actions they're going to try to get completed in that day. And then at 5 o'clock, we go back through the same KPI boards, and did we do what we thought we were going to do that day? And if we didn't, why didn't we do it? And it's not a process where I'm pointing at you, Hank, and saying, Hank, why didn't you do that? The issue is we assume our team wants to do the right thing. We are there to help Hank complete the task in his department. So it's a little bit different than the old way of top down. This is bottoms up management, where the person that's closest to the work is the one telling us what they need to do the work. And we got to listen and give them the support. And with that goes accountability, which is one of my favorite pieces from a leadership standpoint. We want people that are accountable, but when you're accountable, then we're expecting the work to get done. So we give people a lot of room, we give people a lot of support, but at the end of the day, it's a results based business, right? So that and for me, when I was in my 20s, that's all I wanted. I didn't want to be told what to do. I didn't want to give. I just wanted, here's the things that we got to accomplish. Let's figure it out, right?
So how you mentioned that it's something that you came across in your 20s. How long did it take you to implement that into
Yeah.
your
And I was always that way, and I didn't realize to the extent until as I got older. But really, for me, um, I'd say it was always part of. And in those days, whoever was older was the manager. Whoever was more senior was the person that was the lead or the manager. In my company today, it's not like that at all. And a lot of companies today, it's not like that. We have people that we just brought in and they've been with us 6 months that are leading a implementation. And there's people that have been here 5, 10 years that are following them. So for us, it's knowledge and it's accountability and it's results oriented. That's who gets the ball, right? So it wasn't like that. It was more in the old days. It was not like that at all, right? So, and to me, when the business is run less like that, you lose good people, right? A players typically want to be given responsibility and a set of directions on where to go, but A players want the ball and they want to be able to do their thing, right? They don't want to be told every day what to do, right?
and that's great to hear because when you get into an organization that hierarchy of how many years have you been here, how many years have you put in, is a lot that allows you to build those roles or be able to apply for those positions. But I find myself as a former recruiter, I would hear that the new people are hungry. They want to learn. They want
Correct.
to get in there, and why not celebrate them? Why not promote them based on their efforts to kind of keep that going? So I love that, hearing that from you.
I mean, I played sports in high school and it's more of a sports mentality that, every game you got to show up and play, right? It's like you got to be, if somebody's better than you, they're better than you. So you got to show up and do the job. Right?
Definitely. So you mentioned a little bit about some of the roles that you hire for and some of the positions in your company. Can you just talk a little bit about your organization and what do you guys do, just so anyone that is listening they understand for West
Sure.
Technology.
Sure. We're in the terminology in the industry is called a managed service provider, right? We help clients use technology. I think of us more as a technology consulting firm. I've never really, it's the brand that people say that what you are, but I've always thought of us as a consulting firm, right? We're going in and talking to clients and we listen and understand what they're trying to do, what their goals are, what's some of their immediate tasks, what's their mid-year tasks, and going out in the future. In today's business world, if you don't have your technology set up right, there's no way you're going to accomplish your goals. It's just impossible. In the older days, you could get away with some of that, but in today's world, um, things are moving so fast, and you want to be moving with that speed, right? So we help our clients utilize technology to help them outcompete everybody else. The the roles that we have engineers. We call them network engineers. We bring people in as interns as network engineers. We bring people in as sales interns, marketing interns, project manager interns, data analytics interns. So we have basically 5 roles. And I'd say even when any of those people come in, um, we see once they're here, they even though they think they're most people, like for example, in the network engineering role, they started out as cyber security engineers. Like that's what they're going to school for. I'd say out of the all the ones that we've hired, only maybe 20-30% of them stay in that role. A lot of them move into something else. And what we do, we encourage that. You know, they get in here, they don't even know that the skill set they have could apply in another area, right? And so we, it's never not been mutual where we see the person's skill and because we give them opportunity to learn different parts of the company, they move into that another area kind of organically, right?
Yeah.
You don't know. And anybody on the call, whatever you're going to school for, I'm not suggesting to change your major all of a sudden, just, finish it. But you'll find that most people don't work in the career they started, what they went to school for. You adapt and change with what you like to do.
That's great to know, especially when you're going to school. Sometimes you may go into one major, and then at the end, you're like, "Hey, I'm 4 classes before completion. I have 2 classes to go, but that might not be my passion." Or I started a role with this company, and I like what they're doing over in this department, which I have nothing to do with, and my degree has nothing to do with. But it seems like with Four Winds, you guys evaluate applicants, you evaluate your team.
Yeah, what I always try to do and tell people is really the sooner you find out who you really are and what your real strengths are, and you know, it takes time sometimes. I didn't truly understand what I was good at first. I was able to. There were certain things that was able to do really early in my career that I just thought that's what everybody did. And I didn't realize until I got promoted and I got other opportunities and I thought everybody would be doing it like that, that I was one of the only, if not the only person doing it like that. So you got to find that, like what makes you tick. Everybody always tells you that stuff. I personally think it's true. Everybody has a skill set. No, but the way I became CEO is going to be different than you, Hank, and it's going to be different than that. Everybody has to find their core strengths and let those strengths drive them, right?
Yeah, and just finding those inspirations or what keeps you motivated is definitely something that you got to look for within. And it seems like you were able to look deep down and figure out, hey, I like working with people, I like encouraging, I like motivating, I like running a team, and
Yeah.
successful to this
Yeah,
day.
the first job, one of the first jobs when I was at Penn State, I worked for Department of Environmental Resources in DER in Pennsylvania, and I was there as a summer intern, and there was like piles of paper at that time, so I got the first desk, and there was piles of paper in front of my desk. So that all I knew was those papers weren't going to be on my desk for long, right? And those papers were on those desks for years, supposedly, right? So it took me like 2-3 days, and I just came in early. I worked through lunch. I worked through my breaks. I worked after, and I think it was 2.5 days. All the papers were on the next desk.
Yeah,
The person was not too happy that all the paper was on their desk,
not
right?
being able to do it.
Because now it was on their desk, and that's kind of the way I've always done things. If I see it, if it's in front of me, I'm going to finish it, right? The work's going to get done, right? So, and along with that, I would just tell everybody on the call, it's a simple thing, but show up at everything 15 minutes early, 15 minutes late. Just stay. Hank and I tried to pull this off. We were on the call 15 minutes early. We still missed it, right? Which I don't feel good about. But the show up 15 minutes early, stay 15 minutes late. You'll beat most people. And trust me, people like me, they notice that. I know who shows up early, and I know who shows up late. Right? Everybody in my role knows. Trust me, they know.
And I'm glad that you said that. Really building character over credentials. So you could have been with the company for 3 years, or you have seniority, but someone's character definitely shows. So that's definitely a powerful takeaway. I really appreciate you for sharing that. But even some of the best leaders, they do face moments where things really don't go according to plan, or things definitely change on the turn of a dime. Can you just share about a time where your vision may have been challenged and how you led your team through those uncertainties?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you the way that I can't. I still think the core principles, our core values, have never changed. Right? It's still never. I never feel in my whole career. I don't feel like that has changed. I think what I do think is during crisis, during I mean, we've had a few over the last 5, 6 years. We had COVID, in 2020, when nobody got trained for that. Nobody knew what to do about that. We had to figure it out on the fly, right? We had the inflation. There's a lot of inflation on the back end of COVID in 2023 with all the prices going up, you know, numbers that hadn't been seen in a long time. And then the tariffs this year, like we haven't tariffed anybody like this since like the 1800s, right? So there's three major big swings for a business to sort through. And for us, we have what we call a crisis plan. And in that crisis plan, we have different things that we're looking at. And then how do we adjust based on the crisis plan? So, but the core values of what we do in our operational excellence program and our hiring practices, none of that changed. And really, when we started to look at it, I I always I always feel like that's your chance to get ahead. When the wind's at your back, everybody can win. When the wind's in your face, that's when you separate yourself from your competitors. So that's why I think it's so critical to have the OpEx plan dialed in and hire great people. If you have your plan right and you and we didn't adjust much, and we every all through all three of those crises, we actually grew our business 35-40%. So but we recognized them. We made sure we were ahead of the curve on it. I can more specifically about COVID. When COVID, fortunately, I spent time in China in my career, and I had friends in China. So when that hit in China at first, I reached out to my friends in Shanghai, and they said, "Hey, this is really bad, right? It's not a joke." But I was just wishing them hoping they were going to do fine and they were going to be okay. But in China, if anybody goes there, China's not like America. I mean, they can lock down a block, they can lock down a city, and everybody's going to listen, right? So when China got locked down, I thought, okay, they'll probably still contain that, right? Because it's China. Then it got to Italy. If you remember, the second place it hit was Italy. It was in Milan, and I actually lived in Milan. So I called my friends in Milan. Same thing they said. The Italians don't listen at all. So there's no way they were, that there was no way that was going to get contained after it hit Italy. And that was like in December of that year. And after that happened, we went remote immediately after that. In December, we went remote before everybody was doing it. And we pivoted, and this is the other key piece of this. Whenever there's a problem, how do you change that into an opportunity? So we've been trying to get all the customers in Florida to have a remote capability and have redundant internet circuits for 3-4 years. None of them, we don't need to worry about that. Well, the hurricane won't get us. Well, during COVID, we were able to get almost all our clients on redundant circuits, almost all our clients on uh, having a plan to work remote. So we immediately pivoted right to that. We already had the plan on the shelf. We hit it right away in January. By February, March, we had most of our clients were set up and were ready to roll with COVID. So that's the where you got to use your entrepreneurial if you have your base foundation, you can pivot into the opportunities and do really well. But if we didn't have everything set up, we would not have been able to do that.
And that's a great value add, especially where you were already pitching um, that value, that additional service to your clients, and having it already ready for them. So I think probably in the future, anything else you suggest, they'll probably be more willing to listen and more
Right.
willing to jump on board versus kind of trying to save a couple dollars or allowing your team to be the experts in that field, which is great.
Correct. But that's a perfect it's a perfect example of that foundational, and it is, and that applies from your business standpoint, and you as a person, you personally, right? My wife and I ride like 60, 80 miles a week on a bike. We lift every Tuesday and Thursday night. I swim a mile on those nights after I get done lifting. You gotta physically take care of yourself to do this.
Yeah, that's great. And you sharing those examples, especially during those hard times and those crises, definitely shows like leadership traits and how they can definitely be tested throughout your career. And for any student that may just be listening or joining our call today that want to be in your shoes one day, what would you suggest would be a leadership trait that they should start practicing tomorrow to be successful in the role?
Yeah, I think accountability, right? It's like you can never, it's a trait that anybody can master. Anybody can master accountability. And by accountability, I mean do what you say you're going to do, right? Just get in the habit of doing that to for yourself in everything you do. And you can't pick like it's only going to work at work, or it's only going to work with my family, or it's only going to work with my friend. It's got to just become you, right? Just be accountable, be present. When you're involved with something, do it 100%. Hank, you and I talked about this a couple months ago. And I was ready for this today. It didn't magically all of a sudden happen, and I'm not present and ready to roll, right? So if you're going to do it right. But that comes to me, it all comes back to accountability, and if you're accountable to yourself, then you got to be accountable to the results, good or bad, and then you have to be able to own those results, good or bad, and how do you improve, right? Don't blame other people, right? Just own it and control the piece that you can control, and people like me see that. We can see that whether it's BS or real, we can see it a mile away, and the one type of person I hate is phonies, and I will find them quick, and they never get in my company, right? So be accountable, be real, be present, and that is something anybody here can do every day.
Yeah. And accountability, I say that's a key thing, and with anyone in any role, just being that person that someone can lean on or just reach out to, or being a trustworthy person that all embodies that accountability and being there when needed. So
Yeah, it's and sometimes when from the accountability standpoint, my job isn't to make friends as much as my job is to grow the business, help my team grow, help our clients. It's and do the right thing along the way, right? So you gotta do it the right way, but you should be honest with people, right?
yeah. So as we wrap up this conversation, I definitely want to give you a chance and provide some insight looking back on your own career journey. What is one piece of advice you wish you would have received when you're starting your career, or that you did receive that you would be willing to pass on to others?
Yeah, I think I touched on it before, but it's find your unique skill, right? And trust it, right? So for me, I described a little bit earlier that incident or the thing with DER, but I didn't know that was a skill that I was just going to stay focused and get the work done. Right. That, I was just, I just thought that's how I was. Right. So it took me a little while to understand, oh, that is a unique skill. That is something, I got promoted a few times. I got very interesting jobs because I knew I'd get the work done. Right. And then once I tapped into going, oh, okay, that is something that's unique. That is something that's something about me. And I'm not, it's real. It's who I am. Um, then I was able to harness that power almost and utilize it better, faster, more intentional, right? More purposeful. It's another big word for me is purposeful. So find your who you are and be purposeful with it, right? Do something with it, and that's for me when I bring in the people here and I hire everybody in the company. Um, so I always tell the interns and the full time people, be yourself, right? If being yourself isn't good enough for Four Winds, then you're in the wrong place. Why would you want to be here, right?
Yeah.
So be yourself. And part of what I'm looking for when I'm hiring somebody is I'm looking for the right purposeful type of people that would fit into our culture, right?
Yeah.
I always think of it like when you do I guess they still the rail the bowling, Hank, when you would roll the ball and the balls, so they have the bumper rails on them.
Yeah.
Well, I think of Four Winds as that. Like we put the rails in the gutter so you can't throw a gutter ball. So we're going to give you all that room in there to go be yourself, right? But when we give you that opportunity to be yourself and go do something, we're expecting you to go do something,
Mm.
right?
Yep. And I know when we spoke, you talked about giving your interns and your new hires some of that grace to make mistakes,
Sure.
failing with a lot of people joining, getting into the workforce, or maybe just a new company. They're scared to make mistakes or scared to speak up. Um, just can you touch on what gives you, what helps build that inside your organization, or
Say,
what
say,
would you encourage people?
say that last part again, Hank, please.
So what gives you the opportunity or helps drive the vision of allowing interns or new hires to make those mistakes and not feel that it's the end of the world?
Gotcha. I think it's me. I think that's who I was. I mean, I think a lot of times people do things and they want what they wanted when they were starting, right? So for me, I didn't want to have somebody. Uh, I wanted leadership that could understand and learn from me, right? And also I could learn from them, right? And in our world today, in 2026, it's so much to me better and different because of the technology and information that's out there. So my average age of my company is like 26, 27 years old. I got a bunch of 26, 27-year olds making things happen here. So, we that capability and the earlier you get that skill as a young person, in your 20s, the earlier you get the skill to be accountable and to do things, your career is only going to go faster, right? Because if you're on the sidelines, you're not in the game, right? You're not in the game. You're not. And the other part that goes with that, I would tell you, we have a hybrid work culture here. I have three sons. The one in Manhattan, when he got out of grad school a couple of years ago, he's like, "Hey, Dad, I got out of school." He went to Columbia for grad school. He was getting out for his job, and he says, "Hey, I can work remote." I'm like, "Go in the office." He goes, "Why? I can work." There was 14 people that came out that got hired by this company, and he was the only one that went in the office. So he got to rub elbows with the senior people. The senior people got to know him. He's the first person that got promoted. He's the first. Why? Because he got the most interesting projects because they knew him, right? So he's been promoted twice now, and he's doing really well. But the the only way that happened was being in the office, right? As you get older, and at Four Winds, so we do have a few. There's only a few of us, but those guys, they were. I'm more comfortable. It's okay for them to work more remote because there's so much. There's not a lot of things they need to be in here to learn from each other as much. But I would tell everybody on the call, get in an office. You know, there's so much to learn by being around other people and learning that way. Hybrid, you can work 1 day or 2 days remote, but I would say work in the office 5 days for your first 2, 3 years out of the just get in there and learn.
And that's some great advice. I know with us being WGU being 100% online, just taking those advice and just hearing from someone who is in a leadership position who does hiring on the day to day and sees new employees come in and maybe have struggles or just want to build additional relationships, and having that opportunity is definitely beneficial for both the company and that individual that was just hired. So I definitely appreciate you for sharing that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that kind of goes along with that a little bit, Hank, right?
Yep. All right. So we are at the end of our Q&A with Don. I want to open up the floor to allow anyone who has any questions that they would like to ask Don directly, or if you would like to come off mute, you can use the raise your hand function, and I will take you off mute so you can ask directly. But I will also drop in some information in the chat about some upcoming sessions that we have, and also our survey link. And I do see we do have one question already in the chat, so I will go ahead and start with these questions. All right, this question is from Byron. When you're interviewing, what qualities, experiences, or attitudes signal a safe pair of hands in a new hire? How important is that signal in your hiring process, and how do you communicate that signal to your clients?
Yeah, most people, there's no secret. I'll tell people there's a book. It's called Top Grading, TOPGRADING. And that book, it's a thick book, but if you Google it and go online, you'll find the excerpts in the back. But in the very back of that book, there's sections in there, and it's called a chronological interview guide. And it starts, most people, they start making decisions that it's amazing the decisions that you start to make, and you've already started, everybody in this call, those decisions start to accumulate into where you're going to end up. Every decision matters, right? So back to, I'm looking for purposeful people. I'm looking for people that are creative. I'm looking for people that kind of know where they're going. They don't have to know exactly, but they have a sense about themselves that they know what they want to do, right? And I'm assuming anybody that's going to college in the field that I'm recruiting from, they're all smart enough. The issue, they're all smart enough. I'm not worried about that as much as I'm hiring the person. I'm hiring the person that I think will fit our culture, right? So, and that's what I focus on. But I use that chronological interview guide, Hank, and you can put it up to the guys. You can probably find it. And if you go take those pages in the back and print them and just write in your story, and because you're really telling me a story, right? I have one intern here that's been with me for 2 years now. His name's Kyle. At first, I told him no, right? And he came in and he came back to me like 3 weeks later, and I said no again. And then he came back again. And he's like, he was really persistent, and I brought him in. He's been with me 2 years now. He's going to start with me full time in like March, right? So if you really are convinced that whether it's my company or somebody else's company, if you're a fit, go get it, right? So I've had 2 people like that in my interns that were both really persistent, and both of them ended up being really good for us, right? So in both cases, one's a full-time employee now. The other gentleman will be when he gets finished. He's got another class to take. So be persistent too, right? And make sure if it's a fit, but don't do it just to be. They both had a good reason why, right? They were able to say why.
And I think after our conversation, just kind of hearing how your company culture is and how you give interns that opportunity to ask questions or them the opportunity to make those mistakes, and they have the opportunity to be hired on full time. You take a look at everyone. It's not just an intern. We're hiring interns, but we're giving them meaningful work. We're giving them the opportunity to grow with the company. So I think that is great.
Yeah, for the last 6 years, we've only hired our interns full time. So the interns are really strong for us.
That's something great to say about the organization, where you can develop your interns to be the company culture and build that up from the internship into a full role, which is awesome.
The other thing good there, Hank, is their generation, they've grown up on IT and technology, right? So it's natural, right? They can do it by accident, even if 18 to 22-year-olds, even if they don't have a computer degree, most of them can do the start of to do the work.
Yeah,
right.
That's very impressive. All right. Do we have any other additional questions? We have about 10 minutes left in the session. Definitely want to give you the opportunity to ask your questions. With Don, I'll have him here, so he'll be able to answer any questions that you have. I do have a question, Don. You mentioned your background in Six Sigma. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I can do that. It was a Crane Corporation. It's one of the older businesses, and they've been around since the 1860s, right? So they're old manufacturing company. Every leadership role from a VP on up, a VP higher, had to get a minimum of a green belt. So in Six Sigma, there's a yellow belt, which is the low level. Then there's a green belt, and then there's a black belt. So in order to be CEO of that in those business units, you had to have a minimum of a green belt. So I did that, and then I went for black belt. I didn't know. I wish I would have done it earlier in my career. It fit me like a glove, right? If you think back to all that is it's operational excellence, right? It all came from Deming, which was a person back in the 30s and 40s, and then the Japanese after World War II kind of went with it, and then we came back to the U.S. and manufacturing. But it's really about processes, right? How do you put processes in place to improve productivity? And once I understood that, and there's tools that help you solve problems, and then there's just a different way of thinking. The one place I would tell you not to use it is on your significant other. It's not a good idea to use those processes on your significant other. It's not that's the only place I try to leave it at work and in my other places in my world. Nobody likes to be use that productivity terminology with your spouse. So, but other than that, it's very effective. I use it. I mean, it's ingrained in me. And back to what I said earlier, my unique characteristic just aligns so well with that. So of course it fit me like a glove.
And I'm laughing just because I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, that would.
No, don't do it, Hank. Don't do it. If you do it at home, you can do it in your chores. You can do it in your gardening. You can do it other places, but not with your wife.
Gotcha. All right. So we did have a couple questions pop up here in the chat also. So I definitely want to get to those and be mindful of your time. Do you do people get promoted more commonly for leadership qualities or KPI results at your company?
It's both. I mean, you're not gonna. To me, they're both right. It's always about results in the end. So to me, you get promoted for results. There's very few in my career, and the results are what drives it. And to me, the results are because of, you normally you can't do anything by yourself and make a significant change. So you have to learn how to get a department or a group or somebody else to get involved in. So you're going to use leadership typically, which again is why I think it's good to get in an office so you can start to build those relationships to have those other people help you get something accomplished.
Yeah, that's great. Just to kind of hear those things, being able to rub elbows and meet with different people to learn. So our next question is, when you are advising another company about integrating a product and you get resistance, what steps do you take and how hard do you push to get them to see that other end of what you're trying
To get a client to adopt technology.
Yes.
Question. Yeah, it's we have what we have sessions with our clients. I mean, it always depends on the type of organization and who you're speaking to in the organization, right? But for us, it's again, it's a logical process. So we have technology roadmap plans for all of our clients, and those plans are aligned with the company, our clients' goals, right? So I'm not I'm not technology for technology's sake. There's a goal that we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to become this kind of company. In order to do those things, you have to have this type of technology in place, right? So if you deal with the goals and their where they want to go, then it's a different discussion.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess that all speaks to dealing with certain customers and certain clients and how they are reacting to other. Um,
Yeah, it's just like what I said earlier. The to me, it was totally logical that everybody should have a redundant internet circuit, right? If everybody doesn't know, so if your one internet circuit goes down, you have your backup, right? So now you're always able to work. You know, you could have both go down, but there's the chance or that's pretty low. So and have everybody have that remote capability. We have hurricanes in Florida, right? It makes total sense that everybody should be able to work remotely in Florida before COVID, right? But they didn't do it, right? It didn't happen, and it took something to make it happen. There was a few people that wanted to do it, but after COVID happened, everybody wanted that capability. We couldn't stop them.
yeah. And kind of building off that question, I have a question here in the chat. So, how does your team manage the complexity of rapidly changing environments, especially with cloud space?
That's great. Yeah, it's for me personally. Again, I love it in that I'd say every 3 or 4 months we're changing about a third of our processes. So say every 4 months we're changing about one third of our SOPs. So if you think of it that way, every year we've completely changed. Right? Now, for me and the person that I was since I've been 14 years old, this is freaking great. Right? I love it. Right? I love change. I love to be disruptive. I love to make things happen. So this is the perfect world for me. But you have to have, back to what I said, the OpEx structure has to be in place. You have to have procedures. You have to follow procedures. You have to document your processes. All engineers are terrible at that. So we have project managers and account managers that help get that done because engineers are terrible at that. They do all the complicated stuff and they think they're finished, and then they don't do the last pieces that make it stick.
So to engineers, make sure you do those last pieces. He's giving you
That's the piece that they don't do, right? And so the work that's been put in place doesn't, if it doesn't stick, it's got to be repeatable. But yeah, I think it's amazing how fast things are changing, and it's only going faster. It's not going slower. We've been using AI for 4 years. AI is not new to us. So we've been using AI. We were scripting, we were coding, and then we were AI. We were doing all this stuff since the inception of the business, right? So AI is just the latest version of this, and to me, it's fantastic, right? You still got to know something to use the tool. Like people that just spit out and use AI, but it's not always accurate, and it's not always. Sometimes it's wrong on purpose, right? So you got to know. You still got to be a subject matter expert to utilize it properly.
Right. Well, we are at the end of our time, so I definitely, like I said, want to be mindful of your time. But do you have any final words for us, Don, before we conclude?
No, I appreciate the time, Hank. It was really my pleasure to do this, and I would just tell everybody just figure out what you really like to do and focus in on it. That's the key. If you find out the earlier you find out what you love, and then just dial it in and attack it, go after it.
Great. That's some great advice there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Also, I would thank you so much, Don, for just taking the time out of your day to have a great session with us and share your expertise and insights into what it's like to work and your role in a leadership position. Everyone, be on the lookout for that email tomorrow with the session recording, also with the feedback survey. I will definitely appreciate you for giving us some feedback on the session and know what we could do a little bit better. We have other awesome sessions going on this month for Career Quest. Please check out our Career Professional Development page to see what sessions and register for those and attend. Again, thank you again, Don, for joining us, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Hank. See you.